Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said, I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard and they're moving on something.
Branding is really important to you and your business.
Even a basic type of technology, you learn it all.
And people are
Good question.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to A Gathering Place, sponsored by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to today's show. And our topic today is Just Be You by Miss Heddie J. Simmons, who is actually, we went to high school together from Georgetown, South Carolina. So I am excited to have her here to discuss her book, why she wrote it, and answer all our questions. So of course, let me remind everybody, drop your questions and comments in the comment section, and we'll try to get to those questions and comments as we conversate for the next hour. First, let's introduce our special guest. Hello, Heddie. How are you doing?
Hello, I am doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very much. And first, everyone, I must say, and I told her this before the show started, she's looking beautiful. I love the head wrap. I love the backdrop. I love the necklace because everybody knows I like necklaces, and I had to run and go put my pearls on because I had to hang.
Right, we're gonna hang together.
Yes, but beautiful. You look very beautiful today, and thank you for coming. And of course, everyone, let me just remind you, drop your questions and comments in the comment section, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. But let's go ahead and get started because I love the book cover. I love the title, Just Be You. But, let's start really basic. Why did you decide to write this book?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. The book actually came about the events of 9/11. While that was happening, I was literally dreaming it as it was happening. Yes, I remember the day because the kids were a little smaller and the alarm clock had not went off when it should have. So I was scrambling, getting the kids to get them ready to go to bed to school, and then I went back to bed and went to this deep sleep. And literally, I saw the Twin Towers, these Afghanistans with their guns in their hands going kill the Americans. And then I was like, okay, I'm dreaming, right? And all of a sudden, I saw where this doctor was on my left hand side. He stretched his arm out. They turned into this bluish, whitish color's wing. And I could see through the wings. It was like just, it was this sparkling color that I think it was a heavenly color. I've never seen it on earth. It was blue and white, but it was one color, which that's the best way I can describe it. And then all of a sudden the scene switched where I could see the first plane hit the first building and the debris started falling. And then there were 7 men and 1 woman under the covering, and I was just praying for their protection. And then the scene switched again where I saw smoke, pandemonia, just like it was on TV, where, because you had this catastrophic event where, the plane went to the building and everybody was running and smoke was everywhere. People were, clothes on fire. And then my husband, he was going to Walmart. He turned the radio on, runs back in, wakes me up, turning the TV on, going, "We're under attack." And when he says that, I wake up and I'm looking at what I was just dreaming. And I thought I had lost my mind. I thought, okay, so what's going on? And I call him Daddy. I'm like, okay, Daddy, what's up? And I got nothing. And everybody knew where they were when this occurred, when 9/11 occurred. And that first week was life changing for a lot of people. So I went on a fast the next 7 days. And I said, okay, if you're not going to tell me, I need to know something. And I was compelled to turn the TV back on, which means that this was 14 days after the event. And as I was fussing, I'm turning the TV on and I catch 2020, the documentary where 7 firemen and 1 woman was under the covering, that when they were in the stairwell and when this all happened, they were preserved. And they were the 7 and 1 in the dream I was praying for with that
Wow.
umbrella effect. And I thought, that's them, that's them. So from that point on, I kept hearing like titles. And I grabbed my pencil and I heard to write I. When I wrote I, my very first poetic piece came out. Never liked poetry a day in my life. My exposure was Shakespeare, Emily Dickinson, Edgar Allan Poe, and they were kind of dark to me, because they had a lot of depressive things going on. So they wrote, not knowing I was feeling what they were writing in their poetry, which was why I've always hated poetry. So that's how the poetry came. And throughout the years, I just kept hearing, just be you, just be you. And I thought it was just be. And it wasn't. It was a bumblebee.
Wow. Wow.
And the bumblebee literally means to be in action. The bee is to life physically, as we are to be in life spiritually. The whole ecosystem would be knocked off if the bumblebee did not pollinate the smallest flower. And we would be knocked off in this world, not being and doing the things we've been called to do, as far as why God put us on this earth. So just be you. And it's a long acronym for justified under salvation, to believe and expect, especially your own uniqueness.
Wow. 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 So it's not just the title, it's an acronym. It stands for, can you say that again?
Justified under salvation, to believe and expect, especially your own uniqueness.
That's beautiful. And I have a couple of questions listening to you, and you kind of answered one already, but before I ask the questions, I want to point everyone's direction to the bottom of the screen with the scroll, Just Be You. If you want to purchase this book, please go to the website. And we're going to talk about this website also, why you did the website the way you did it. But I want to encourage everyone to purchase the book. This is why I bring our community on to a gathering place, not only to get informed and receive knowledge, but to financially support each other. So please purchase the book. Take the time and purchase the book. So it's Just Be You. I understand about the bee. You explained about the bee, and the vision you had with the bee. Do you think you experienced this dream, this vision, because of your being from Georgetown, the Gullah Geechee? There's a lot of spiritual messages in our culture. Do you think that played a part in your vision, your dream?
I would say yes, it did. With the history, that the things that went on within our area. I mean, you had good and bad spirits. We did. And for me as a child growing up, I've always remember having these conversations with God. I just thought it was normal for everyone else to do the same thing. So it wasn't anything for me to hear something and then, oh, didn't you know that was going to happen? And people would look at me like, what? No. So I realized it wasn't normal. So to have the dream and growing up the way I did, I always had issues with being, not feeling confident within myself. It seemed like I've always been smiling. I've always had a smile. But sometimes behind the smile were a lot of things that weren't so happy, weren't so, to smile about. So to have the dream and then see that and experience some of the things that we went through and saw in the area, I think it just was a way of God bringing out his purpose within me. That's, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. And as you were talking, I was thinking how we can have a conversation with someone or listen to someone, and within that conversation, there are many layers going on, many conversations going on, different planes, if you will. The conversation that we have right now, where we're verbally conversating, but also there could be a spiritual conversation going on or a physical conversation going on, how we communicate with each other. And as I listened to you even explain the title of the book, how it's not just be you, but it's an acronym that has a bigger meaning, a deeper meaning. And that's like multi-layered conversation going on. And in your dream is a conversation with
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
speaking to you. That's on another layer. And it just, I don't know why that occurred to me as you were speaking, other than it occurred to me. And that's why you're here, to have this conversation.
Absolutely. When you say the layers, what happens to me when you say that, I think of how multi-dimensional we are because we are spirit beings. We experience a lot of those spiritual activities in our areas where we grew up, and it did affect us in a way where we may not have realized it until something happened. And if I may, can I mention God on the show? Can I?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we knew, and I'm not preaching, but you just said it and it just hit me. We have God the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, and that was multi-dimensional, you know? And then we think of him as three separate entities, but all as one. And then when
Mm-hmm.
Jesus
Mm-hmm.
walked the earth, he was God himself in flesh, one dimension, but he operated through his spirit, another dimension. And then he was in the physical to show us how to live and walk, move and live and have our beings multi-dimensional. So when you say that, you are absolutely right. And there are other things popping off in my head as you're saying that because it just shows me where the conversation is going, which is so cool, because a lot of times we are afraid to say the things that's in our hearts, and we shouldn't. We are afraid to just be who we've been created to be.
That reminds me of another question. I'm going to write it down, but I want to say this very quickly. It is that kind of conversation, and those are the type of conversations I love having on my show. And I have different folks come on different topics, but they, for different reasons. And it really is just a free flowing show to give folks knowledge, whether it's economic knowledge, business knowledge, history knowledge, spiritual knowledge. This is the purpose of the show. So thank you very much. Um, what have you received from writing the book? So it's two questions. What have you received from writing the book? And what do you want others to receive from you writing the book?
Well, the first question, what have I received from writing the book, was a sense of peace, a sense of realizing that I'm not crazy, a sense of when I write and pen a piece of poetry, that it is for someone and it goes beyond what I could ever see or imagine when I write. Just Be You has been a foundation for many books because I thought that Just Be You was going to be the only volume. And I realized as I was writing Just Be You, the next book is going to be Just Be Love. And then the next one is Just Be Still. The next one is Just Be Forgiven. And they all will be pieces of poetry that will deal with those particular areas. Like when I do Just Be Love, that's going to deal with the people who have went through suicide, which I've been a product of. Thank God that I failed. People who were maybe adopted or thinking that they were not loved and given away. So Just Be Love will actually encompass some of the totality, but not its infinite um, reason why and how God loves us. Of course, I don't know all the ways, but it will be just enough to give you something that I've experienced because we learn from so many different people. And what I want others to get from the book when they read a poem, a piece of poetry, that they can find themselves in each poem and then become a better themselves, see something within themselves. Maybe I could be talking to someone who thinks, oh my goodness, I didn't think what I had to say was so important. Like the titles, like accepting who you are. And what is your land? Why were you put here on this earth? Those titles literally speaks to you and will help you be a better you. And that's what I want people to get out of the book.
All right. All right. Very, very good. And we had a wonderful quote. Let me put that comment back up. Thank you, Ms. Bromell. This topic will bring awareness of how we are all connected one way or another. Just Be You is so needed. And, I think it really is. It really is. Going back to what you said a little bit earlier, I think a lot of us find it hard to speak our truth. But when we get there, when Just Be You, when we get there,
Yes.
And we are all on those journeys. And I have found the more I speak my truth, the easier it is. And I think growing up, we're battered around by life, by society, and we learn to protect ourselves
Yes.
when the protection is actually freeing ourselves
Yes.
because no one then can attack you. It's a little bit contradictory because we're told to put on our armor, but the armor is here I am. Just be me. Just be you. And no one can take that away from you once you get to that point. Did you find that in your journey? And I know, and I'm so glad that you were not successful when the suicide. We would not be here
Whew.
today. So
Yes.
that speaks to purpose, that
Yes.
you have a purpose. And I understand, I think, to a certain extent, because I too have suffered from depression, especially since college, and I've been through therapy. And I talk about that because I want people to know it's okay to just be you. It's okay to admit you suffer from depression. And
Yes.
I have been through therapy off and on in my life. And I don't think it makes me weak. It actually has made me stronger. And I think that speaks to that. And people just need to know that your next door neighbor may be someone that suffers from mental health issues. It's not disabling to me, but it's something I now through life have learned to manage. And I manage it, yeah. I see the signs and everything. So it's good to have these conversations with you because I think this is also part of what goes on with all of us. Seeking who we are, seeking who am I, and just be. So speak to that a little bit.
Well, just I'll start it off with the book. Just like you see on the bumblebee, there a bee never flies in a straight line. It's always a zigzag. And see, that's life. We know sometimes we'll set our mind to do something, and in doing that, now I may do little acronyms here and there because when we talk about the mind, we make individual necessary decisions, MIND. And in doing that, a lot of times we're veered off from that path. Life is so full of surprises, and we don't tell people it's okay to be where you are. A lot of times we'll see someone hurting and we could have just smiled. And that simple smile could just perk someone else up. And we want to like mind our own business, but we are each other's business. At least it's that way for me. When I see someone not looking like they're okay, and it's so funny, my daughter says, "Mom, you always go to the person nobody wants to talk to." I said, "Mm-hmm," because somebody did it for me. Someone did it for me. And that one person throughout my entire life has helped me tremendously, prayed over me, said certain things that I didn't understand as a child. And she was able to still see the effects, the fruit of her prayers. So being looks different for a lot of different people, depending on where you are in life, what you're trying to do, and how that goal is put in motion. Now, for me as a child, I was always told like, be quiet. You don't have anything to say. Nobody wants to hear you because we know the cliche: children are to be seen and
And
not
not
heard.
her.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
I understand that on one side, but that could be damaging to a child depending on where they are. And like, what do you mean I have to be quiet? It was damaging to me. Adults didn't mean anything by it. I know what they meant then. I understand it now, but at the time it didn't make any sense. So my being, I've learned that the very thing you're called on this earth to do, the very thing, that's what the enemy is going to attack to keep you from doing it. Because your being allows others to be, and it completely disrupts his kingdom. It disrupts the enemy kingdom because all he wants to do is kill, steal, and destroy. That's it, no matter what it is. So just be you speaks to you in a sense to help you realize there is nothing that you cannot do. Absolutely nothing. When probably about 5 years ago, I heard that it would take me 3 days to write the book. So I thought, oh, this is going to be easy peasy, easy peasy, because Just Be You has been in my spirit for 15 years. And I'm like, 15 years? So some lady, I can't say some lady, a beautiful soul found me on Facebook from doing the post that I write every morning, Monday through Friday. I write a fresh piece every morning, Monday through Friday. And she said, the Lord told me that I'm supposed to help you write your book for free. So I thought it was a joke, right? And I'm thinking, okay. So she said, okay, so let's do this contract. There's no money involved, but we just have to have a standard. And see, she was being, and in her being and her obedience, it helped me. So we got
Mm-hmm,
everything
mm-hmm.
together. The day before I was supposed to start on the book, I fall down my daughter's stairs, going in slow motion. I felt like it was an attack. And by me falling, it was like slow motion. And I was like, are you serious? And the moment I said Jesus, the moment, it was like my body flipped back over. My elbow hit the wall. I hit the back of my head. I hit my bottom. I had pain shooting down my left leg. Went into prayer, anointed myself, and went to sleep. You're not supposed to go to sleep when you hit your head. You're not.
That's right.
But I did, because I prayed and I said, Lord, I knew this was an attack. Wake up the next morning in pain, couldn't figure out why I was hurting. And I thought, why am I hurting? And I heard you fell. I'm like, I fell where? Because, I have these conversations with God. And I heard you fell down Carmen's stairs. Ended up with short-term memory loss for 3 weeks.
Wow.
I did write the book in 3 days, but it took me 3 weeks. It took me 1 day out of a week. I wrote 5 poems 1 week, 5 poems the next week, and then 5 the third week. 3 days to complete the book. One for the Father, one for the Son, one for the Holy Spirit.
So now we're talking those layers that we
Yes,
spoke about earlier. That's fascinating. It
yes.
really is. And it's fascinating to hear your journey and how you got to this point. And if you don't mind, do you have one that you can read, a poem out of the book that you can read? And before you do, let me remind everyone that you are watching A Gathering Place, sponsored by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. And I'm your host, Marilyn Hemingway. And I see poetess Heddie J is with us today. And she's getting ready to read an excerpt from her book, Just Be You.
I'm going to read Accept Who You Are, and I will show a snippet because each poem has a picture, and that's actually me on the beach in Myrtle Beach.
All right.
And then
Very good.
you have the poem, and then you have pop-outs in the poem, which reiterate the poem itself.
Okay.
This piece is called Accept Who You Are. Stop fighting the very thing I have placed in you to be. Stop listening to others who clearly don't want to see that you are that person in what you feel. Accept this truth and shine. Be healed. Stop telling others your dreams only because those you tell can think otherwise. It does take wisdom to sit with the Father. It proves to others why sitting is never a bother. Realize now how special you are to be. The Father created you so well, so see. Accepting who you are, prove that you trust in Him. Your accepting yourself is how you daily win. Let this be the last day you feel this way. No more running away from yourself, I say. Even when you feel bent and out of shape, no matter what, you will feel more than great. Doors will open and you will see the importance of God in you wanting to be. You will find a freedom sparkling like a star. You will see your purpose when you start accepting who you are. I bring you peace.
Very good. Very good. Let me ask you this. As you were writing that, what voice were you hearing?
That's interesting you asked me that. Um, I heard peace when I wrote this particular piece. I was looking at the picture and the words just started flowing because I received titles first. And for me, it was more of a sense of peace, not so much an audible voice, but the place of peace. Finally, doing something that would give me peace as I give out my peace, Piece. That's what.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. As you were reading it, I heard our mothers and grandmothers.
Wow.
And I think for me, and I lost my mother 14 years ago, but when I was with her, I can recall there was always that peace,
Mm-hmm.
Peace,
Mm-hmm.
because with your mother, I think she's your shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's that person, and I'm not saying this to discount fathers. Fathers are important folks also, but
We're talking about mothers right now. Yeah.
mothers
Mm-hmm.
who, um, the wisdom of mothers and grandmothers,
Yes.
that shelter, that safe space. You're always a child as long as you have your mother and your father. It doesn't matter how old you are, that you could go back there and have that shelter because your mothers love you no matter what. In general, no
That's true.
matter what. We know there are exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And they know all your secrets and still are accepting and loving of you.
Mm-hmm.
So as you were saying that, I just heard that wisdom of mothers and grandmothers.
Wow. That's interesting you say that. I love that analogy, Marilyn, because I lost my mother 40 years ago, and it still feels like it was yesterday
Mm-hmm.
because she was that sense of shelter. She was that hiding place. She was that soothing place. And you're right, she knows everything. And my children did not get to meet their grandmother on my side. But you're right, we love our children in ways that they would never, they could never expect. Like my son is 25 and he just went through something. And he was like, Mom, I'm like, but I love you. I'll always love you. I might be disappointed in what you did, but I'll always love you. So mothers, I feel like we have a piece of God because it's so internal that we want our children to always get it no matter where they are or whatever they may do. It's a part of unconditional loving. It is. It truly is.
Yeah, that is so true. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for fleshing that out for me and making that connection. That's very good. I also want to point out, as you were talking earlier about the bee
Hmm.
and what the bee does with the flowers and pollination, when you were writing these poems and putting this book together, did you think of anything like environmental that ties into our environment and um, what's happening with our environment now with climate change and it's so important. You are correct. Let me just say this, that the bee, without the bee, we can't grow. And I wonder how many people really realize that. And that's what's interesting to me. It's just be you, but that bee is so vital to our existence. And I think, let's be honest, most of us take it for granted, the little bee.
I think
Or it's a we want to swat it and kill it because it might bite me, it might sting me, but that bee plays a part in our existence.
it does. In let's see, this is the month of March. In January, normally the bees are not present around January, February. And
Hmm.
because the climate, everything is changing, we don't know if it's summer. I mean, Monday it was almost 80 degrees here in Atlanta. And I'm
And I
thinking,
saw two bees outside
I believe you.
in my yard.
I
Yeah, because the
absolutely
heat brought them out. Hmm.
Absolutely. I was in the botanical garden just taking pictures, and the bees were everywhere. And I thought, this is January. And they were doing what only they knew to do. There's no telling because they were out and they were pollinating what they have prepared for us with the upcoming climate. So I think on those levels, the bees were being about their business with their own buzz. And with them doing that, they actually help produce some type of food source for us that we can actually intake because of the climate that we have. And we don't know what's happening next. But if we can be about our business, no matter what the season is, and that's like you said, that's a layer within itself because normally we have people who have to go to work, they're being and doing what they need to do. And then in going to work, their spiritual aspect needs to be addressed as well. Because if I do believe apart from God, we can do nothing. I don't care what it is. Even if you're a ditch digger, if your spirit is in you when you dig that ditch, others are not only going to know you dug that ditch because of who you are and how you leave that ditch after you leave what's left behind. So the bees, I mean, oh my goodness. I don't know why that came to mind as you said that, but those bees did something for us. And actually, it gave me the next two book covers for the next two books as they were being.
Well, it's interesting. Well, because you've already said you have a series, so I can see the connection and understand it, and that makes sense. But let's go back to the layers, talking about
Okay.
layers. And I hope people really take things out of our conversations, that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we here at the Gullah-Geechee Chamber of Commerce, we are big advocates for our environment, addressing climate change, and also education about career and business opportunities in green renewable energy. Because all of that, the environment, climate change, green renewable energy, is interconnected to our economic success. And
Yes.
the Gullah-Geechee Chamber of Commerce was created for that economic uplift. I wanted to be a part of that. All right. So one of, I guess you could say, for a slogan, it's about a healthy environment
Mm-hmm.
leads to healthy people,
Mm-hmm.
leads to healthy businesses, and ultimately leads to healthy communities.
Yes.
And and when you really drill down and peel away the many layers, it's complex, but it's simple. And one of the simple things is the bee buzzing around, going about its business, serving its purpose, being itself. But in that being, it is feeding the world.
Yes.
When you talk about the ditch digger, in their being, on
Yes.
a spiritual level, you're building a good ditch. Because if you don't build a good ditch,
You a
oh,
backup. You have backup. Water
you
backs up.
have backup, or a ditch can collapse and kill someone.
That's right.
They also, in their being, uh, are a part of the ecosystem that we all need. And we say ditch digger, but each person serves a purpose.
Yes.
So, in just being you, you need an understanding of your purpose. Whether you're a bee that's buzzing, or a ditch digger, or a CEO, or a teacher, or all the other variety of jobs and purpose. I should say more purposes that we have as individuals. We have a purpose, a being in you. So, as rewriting the book, is that also part of it? Is that
Absolutely.
something that you experienced?
Absolutely. 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 When I was able to pen the book, there was a sense of accomplishment because being I am a nurse and I'm a licensed and ordained minister, and they're servants. We're servants. So I get to serve in the most unusual and I think the most rewarding capacity, the health of another person. In the nursing world, it's that physical health, but I mix the spirit because of who I am. In ministry, it's the spiritual part, but then it's always backwards. We've gotten so accustomed to, I'll say, quote unquote, some preachers, some ministers, some prophets, some evangelists, we've gotten so accustomed that some people just wear the title instead of being the title. I've run into people that, they had these titles, and I'm not gigging on titles. We're talking about being. I've ran into people that you didn't even have to tell me your name. I already knew that you were a minister, already knew that you serve. It's all about being, and there's nothing wrong with titles. That's not what I'm saying. We have to be who we are for others so they can become and be. When Michelle Obama wrote that book, Becoming,
Becoming.
I thought, that's my language. And everything that she went through on her level was all about becoming even who she is right now for the people that
Mm-hmm.
are coming up behind her. And that's how we are. But we just take it for granted like the bee. There's this there's this uh Chick-fil-A store in near Peachtree City, and they actually have bees, beehives on the top of their building. And when I saw that, I went crazy. It's like this aloha scenery. And they actually harvest the honey. They let the bees be, and then we are able to partake in what they do. Well, that's how we are supposed to be in life. We are to find out and understand why we are the spoken word of God, word working our realized dreams. Understand that so we can be like me. Writing the book helps you become a better you, no matter where you are when you read the pieces, because we're all on different levels. No one is the same. No one has that same amount of faith. That's just how we are. So, um, yeah, I can see that. I'm saying a mouthful. Yes, I am saying a mouthful. I might need to drink some water, but it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
We were created to be. And if you're in an environment where you can't be, then you buzz off somewhere else so you can be. Because we're not supposed to hold others down. We're not supposed to. That's not why God created us and gave certain establishments to make we think we own one another. We are each other's keepers. As beekeepers keep bees so they can buzz along and do what they need to do for the entire world, then there are people that are in place that should allow us to be as we speak, write, sing, talk, interview, so others can get it and be who they are. That's what Just Be You is basically all about.
Wow, that's beautiful. And there's so many points in there, and it's really just beautiful and fascinating. And I'm so glad that you wrote this book, that you've put this collection of poetry together. And I do want to remind everyone at the bottom of your screen, if you want to continue this series, to purchase the book, Just Be You. And at the bottom is the website, A Poetic Ministry, and it's spelled with two E's.com. A Poetic Ministry.com. Please purchase this book and support this poetry, support this message. I really think this is Women's History Month, so I'm really happy that we've started off a gathering place with Women's History Month. Didn't think about it until this afternoon that I have a woman kicking off Women's History Month. I just had a woman, Tawanja Winley, who came on this past Sunday,
Uh-huh.
and also really, it was just a very spiritually moving hour. And I must say, this hour is also repeating that. So there is something going on
There
that we
is.
need to hear from you. Yes, there's something going on. And I think maybe this will bring healing to someone. Maybe this will bring knowledge to someone that they could take with them in their journey and and grow and use it and becomes useful to them. So thank you for writing this book. I want to remind everyone that you are watching A Gathering Place, sponsored by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Marilyn Hemingway, your hostess, and today we have with us poetess Heddie J, and we're talking about her book, Just Be You. When I also hear you talk, I hear also be present. You spoke about still, be still. I remember I'm into hiking, and I lived in the mountains a few years ago, so I had a chance to really do some good foothills mountain hiking, and it made a difference. Let me tell you, it was a time when I was very close to God, and I wasn't being still in the sense of just physically sitting or being
Yes.
still. I
Yes.
was being still in the sense that I was in God's presence.
Yes.
And I say that because we think of church as being the four walls. We go to church, it's a wooden or brick building. But every time I went into that forest and you're in those trees and you're looking up,
Yes.
what
Yes.
a beautiful cathedral.
Yes, yes, the leaves speak. I hike as well. So you're right. The way the
Yeah,
wind
yeah.
blows, it's like a message in so many different ways. I'm gonna let you finish.
Yes.
Yes, but you're
And you
absolutely
have these conversations with God.
yes,
Um, and it is a stillness because it's quiet. And I have to admit, I actually had dogs with me because I had my housemate had dogs, I had dogs, and at the peak I had 5 or 6 dogs. I can't remember.
uh-huh,
Five. And but it was me and those dogs. You would see people occasionally, but I actually took the dogs not only because they needed the exercise and I needed the exercise, but for security, for protection. And it would just be me talking to those dogs and just conversating with God, just talking out loud. And that's a prayer. That's praying. You
yes,
know,
it is.
when they say pray in the closet, I wasn't announcing it to anyone else. I
Yes,
was there having a conversation with God to myself and getting a lot of I was we talk about be present. I
yes,
was present in the
yes,
moment. Be still. Peace be still.
yes,
The peace be still was being present in that moment, the peace in my heart and
yes.
the growth that occurred to me. Do you think in this book that you also received that, you felt that, and
Yes.
also in reading the poetry that that's one of your goals also?
Yes, it is. I know it is. I've never liked poetry, which is so funny. So when I kept hearing these rhyming words, I'm like, "Are you serious, God?" And I say God has jokes, but for me, one of the reasons I believe He allowed, because I'm going to tell people the story. I don't like poetry, but I love being used the way He allows me to write, and it also means that no matter what He has for you, you must make up your mind and do it. You have a choice. Either you can choose not to and be miserable, or you can choose to do that. And in doing that, in my being, as I'm being busy writing the way I do, it allows me to help others as they hear the words, as they hear the spirit. Because a lot of times I'll be in the grocery store and then I'll, because I kind of feel things and I'm like, and now I'm used to it. And I'll say, "Excuse me, can I say something to you?" And they'll look at me like, "Okay." I said, "It's gonna come out in poetry, but I don't like poetry." And they'll look at me like, and then I'll just do the poem. And they're like, "But you don't know me." I said, "But that's how much he loves you." So it's a gift that I could never explain. And I actually quit my job to do this, Marilyn. I just resigned
Wow.
my job because I wasn't getting the peace and the fulfillment of walking into what I know that I'm supposed to walk into. So, when you do things like that, it is a level of trust. And it's also a level of me wanting to be as big as I can through who and what God made me to be. So when people tell me you can't do that, I tell them, "Thank you. Watch me," and then I walk away because that's fuel for my fire. We don't understand the power of the word. It is so powerful when we say certain things to people. The wrong words will actually keep us from being. And in that non-existence, we may have to have counseling. And that's another thing with the Black community. We don't believe in having searching that type of help when they were being so we could be. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm glad you mentioned that because there's nothing wrong with that. I probably wouldn't be here now if I didn't seek help. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so my part of being, I know, is to help others with words. If I had to flow, can I flow right now, Marilyn, and do something
Yeah,
else?
go ahead. Go ahead.
So, so uh, I'm being interviewed today from a homegirl I haven't seen in a long time along the way. We're talking about just being you and how important it is to be true. But being who you are comes from trusting what you are. Being what you do allows you to shine and be so true. When you trust the thought that you know that's in your heart, you understand and receive instructions from God to start. You must be you in everything you must do. In doing what you do, it allows one to be true, not only for yourself, but for others who come around you who needs that much needed help. So I bring you peace in the words that I always say. Just be you today. And I hope you're getting this along your way. I bring you peace. I don't know why I felt that.
That's a gift. That's a gift. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. I really, that is truly a gift. And let me ask you something, because you found your gift and you said you left your job to do this full time. So bravo, kudos to you. I left my job with a plan, and you have a plan because
Yes,
you're going to do a series and everything. So
yes.
that's vital, folks. But do you find that once you recognize your journey, your gift, and you took ownership of it, that certain pettiness falls away, pettiness, envy, others may say things and you're unconcerned about it? I hope I said that right.
You,
I
no,
hope I said that right.
you said it very well. Once I left the job, either the pet, you're right, those little things that got on your nerve, it didn't make sense anymore. That's because you stepped into another dimension. You were in the dimension of trying to do something while trying to do something else. And then when you realized you didn't want to do whatever that was before, and then you walked into what you were trying to do in the first place, then your focus changed. And in that, it's almost like the scripture they say when God will allow different doors to open. He'll shut one door and he'll open another. Well, these are physical doors, but they start from within. Literally, they start from within. When you can recognize and be bold enough, because we say we trust God, but we only trust him when it looks like something we know. Well, that's not trust and that's not faith. Faith is the unseen, the unknown, and the unmentionable that's within your spirit when you trust God, when you hear him. That's what faith is. Of course, everybody quotes the scripture, but do you really know what you're quoting? You know?
Mm,
Do you
mm.
really know? Well, that's another story.
Well, I say that you say a word because this, once again, going back to the young lady on Sunday, I tell you, there is something happening and it's bigger than us. But I'm so glad that you said it starts internally
Yes.
and it humbles you once you realize your journey, that
Yes.
the gifts that you were given were meant to be shared.
Yes.
You have your gift of poetry. You accepted that, even though I'm not into poetry, but this is what I'm accepting, and you're running with it. And I know you will be okay. You will do well
Yes.
because it's one. How do you define that success? We get caught up in do success is having the car, the house, etc. But once you realize your journey, you realize success has a totally different definition.
Success is peace within one's
It
own self.
sure is, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it
Yes.
sure is. And I
Yes.
tell people, they say, "Oh, Marilyn, you're so busy," and I am. I accept that. Um, but I enjoy it. I
Yes.
enjoy what I do. I
Yes.
have fun, even on a bad day. But that doesn't stop the bad and the good from happening because we're
Yes.
human and we're flawed. So things are going to happen. You know,
Absolutely.
um, this minor annoyances of the day to major things like me losing my father last year was life changing,
Mm,
bad thing that happened. But
mm,
even in the bad and the annoyances, there's good. There's a silver lining. And I was just telling somebody this week, my inheritance is my education, my
yes.
ability to pick myself up and keep going. That's an inheritance. I think in the world in the worldly, we're taught inheritance is about money, about things, material things, where it really is about the gifts that we've been given.
Yes. Yes.
And it opens up a whole new world to
Yes.
you. So even this conversation that you and I are having today, and the people who are watching, hey Jackie Williams is on.
Hey,
You know,
girl.
this is who was on this show with her book. You know, even I learned something from every conversation I have, and I hope somebody is learning from this conversation. I was gaining some knowledge.
Yeah,
And that's a beautiful thing. So you're here, we're having this conversation for a reason, beyond our own understanding.
absolutely. May I say, when we talk about the gift or gifts, you know, we know God gave His Son the best gift that there could ever be, and then we all have gifts. And I have this acronym for gifts, and because we never keep the gifts for ourselves, I could be the best poet in the world and never share a poem, and no one would ever know it. No one would ever even think about being themselves. So, gifts, it means God is flowing through spiritually. He gives us something on the inside that we give back to the world because He gave it to us in the first place. And I see this summation of COVID. It has changed everything. No matter what we did, it has changed everything. But it didn't change who and what we were created to be from the day we were
Mm,
born.
mm,
So, because everything was laid aside, there is no excuse. There is no excuse. Churches were shut down. We think sometimes some people actually think God is just in the brick and mortar. I always see churches as us coming together, being equipped spiritually to go back in the world and spread light where there's darkness, no matter how God calls you. So, the church being shut down now at this particular moment, how much in you that God has placed within you with His gifts that you're supposed to impact the world within your environment? That's what it's all about. That's being. That is just being who you were created to be.
I'm gonna go back to what you were saying earlier about
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can't remember the words, but I'm gonna grab what you just said now. Um, we are the church.
Yes.
You didn't actually say those words, but you were saying that. And so the physical church may be shut down, but if we are the church internally, and well, I know what it was you said, when we say scriptures
Yes.
and don't understand
What we're saying.
necessarily the meaning,
Mm-hmm.
and 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 I'm gonna knock social media for a moment, even though I'm on social media right now. And
Uh-huh.
you see it in the memes and people posting on social media thoughts and prayers, or they repeat memes. But how many of us take the time to really understand the deeper meaning of what we're sharing? Not even the deeper meaning, but the actual meaning of what we share. And we need to really be careful of what we share, what we're grasping on and repeating, if we don't have an understanding. And that, even with that, doesn't mean you necessarily have to go to church to get that understanding, but be of the church, be in the church, because we are the church. And
Absolutely.
we hear that in church. We hear it all the time. You are the church. But when we had to shut down churches because of COVID, there were so many people I saw, too many, not everybody, y'all got to be clear, not everybody, but too many people who were just meltdown on the church shutting down.
Well, I have a take, and please, this is just my explanation.
Go ahead. And that's what y'all, this is just us. This is
Just
Maryland.
having a conversation.
Thank you.
A lot of
God, we
people,
having a conversation. Go
yeah,
ahead.
a lot of people lost it because of the leader of the church. When
Mm.
someone's given a position, and this is not all churches, some churches, when someone's given a position, they don't cherish the position. They take the position and make it their own. Remember, every gift, everything we do is a gift. That means God is flowing through spiritually. So you have pastors who think their flock belongs to them. No, you're a shepherd over them. So most churches, some pastors, thought they were the ones in control. They tell the people where to sit, how to stand up, when to praise, when not to praise, instead of letting the Holy Spirit have his way throughout the service. And that's a whole nother ball game. But that's why some of these churches did not survive, because God was not in it. in the first place. So that's my bottom line. That's my story. I'm not changing it. I've seen it. I've seen it.
But that's
So,
all right. That's all right. We're not here to change it. We're here to listen and grow. And
yeah.
y'all may disagree. You may
Yes.
disagree.
And it's okay.
But y'all write a book and I'll bring y'all on too.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
the wonderful thing about life and this world that we live on, that we are all unique beings. And to me, that means we all bring something to the table of life.
Yes.
We all have our own journeys. And once you take ownership of that, you are able to not only enjoy your own journey, I can enjoy your journey too. I can enjoy Jackie's journey, and I'm using you, Jackie, because you've been on the show. I can celebrate you because I can celebrate me. I can celebrate Jackie. I can celebrate Tawanja, who was on this past Sunday. I can celebrate all my guests, and I can celebrate those who are even watching this show, because your journey does not take away from my journey. And that takes growth and knowledge. And I use knowledge rather than education, because knowledge leads to wisdom. There can be a lot of educated people who we all know, we've run into them, don't have wisdom. But knowledge leads to wisdom. And one of the things I've learned in life, if I've learned nothing else, that if I cannot see the humanity in me, I cannot see the humanity in you. And some of the ways we see that, if you can't love yourself, how can I love you? And that's what makes my journey and your journey, why I'm having fun at this point in my life, that God has given me enough years and experience to have the wisdom to learn that.
You said a mouthful.
You know?
You said a
And
mouthful.
a lot of us don't get that, but they also play a role, because it reminds us to stay humble, and to celebrate other folks. It's everybody has something to bring to the table. Everything. So we are at the last 2 minutes. This has been a good conversation.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And I'm gonna put the comments up quickly. But as you speak, give us some last words.
Last words. If I never ever had the chance to speak again, I want to say that I want you to be you, and that's how you win. If you never ever had the chance to ever put your foot back in a church, understand you are the church, and God is with you. He is helping you to be where you are right now, and He wants you to be who you are so you can help others when they ask how. It starts from within and then it goes on out. If you understand this concept, then you will eventually not do the shouts. The shouts that make you cry when no arms are around to wipe your tears. When you understand who you are, that alone will abate many fears. So just be you and understand who you are and what you are to become. When you have this peace from the inside, that's how we live and that is how it's done. So trust who you are and be who you are. Let God in your life and He will take care of that strife. So be who you are and shine like that star. Be who you are. I bring you peace.
That you can't say anymore. Thank you for bringing us those words to close our show. I want to encourage everyone, let's support each other and celebrate each other. And we can start here today by going to apoeticministry.com and purchase Just Be You, the first of a series of many books that we look forward to. And one thing quickly, it is not found on Amazon. Because why? I forgot. I was checking off my question. That was my last question. So tell people, 'cause I love this. Go ahead.
I wanted to build my own empire, my own entity. If God can trust me enough to allow me to write poetry and then bring it to the world, and then have the funds come in so I can bring it back to the world, then that's why. It's not that I don't trust Amazon. I trusted myself more and to build my own empire because I'm building a legacy. You know, wherever I go, it's a legacy. They'll say, that's the bee lady, that's the poem lady. That's a legacy. I bring you peace. Those are legacy moments. So I trust you to do the same and trust yourself because you have no excuse not to do it for yourself. Just be you.
That is so true. Before you go, the door is always open for you to come back. And we want to talk again because there's some things I want to talk to you about. You may have already thought about them with your brand, but that's why I started the Gotta Get Your Chamber of Commerce, to help have these conversations and have those economic business conversations. So we're going to talk. We're going to do a Zoom or something, just you and I, have a meeting, and let's let's think of some things that we need to do and everything. Beautiful. I'm glad that you shared that, folks. If you are out there writing your own book or making your own creation, being a maker, own your brand. I wanted that advice to come out too. Thank you, Poetess Heddie J. And it's a good way to end today's show. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. And everyone, thank you for your comments and questions. They were great. Love it. Keep it up. And thank you for joining us, Poetess. And we will see you when we get another date and bring you back on. Love it. Love it. Love it. Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good night. All right, everyone. Wasn't that a wonderful show? Just Be You by Poetess Heddie J. And please go and purchase her book at apoeticministry.com. And that's ministry, A Poetic Ministry, MINISTREE.com. It was scrolling at the bottom of the screen the entire show. So I hope that you took the opportunity to write it down and go right now and purchase the book. I want to remind everyone that we have a gathering place every Wednesday at 4 and Sunday at 4. And this upcoming show this Sunday will be with Steve Williams. Author and historian. We're going to be talking Gullah Geechee stories and history. And I cannot spell history. I have to go back and update that graphic. Folks, but this is why we're here. But I invite everyone to come back every Wednesday and Sunday at 4 p.m. to join us at Gathering of Changemakers in the Gullah community at a gathering place. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Good night.